The Science of Self-Realization by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Chapter 5, Practicing Yoga in the Age of Quarrel. Superconsciousness is the first section of this chapter, and it talks about achieving this state of consciousness, where the individual consciousness is merged into the collective consciousness, and how the best way to do this is through divine service. Yes, there needs to be some sort of hatha yoga, connecting through balancing, but it's not quite as commonly understood. We are lords and saviors with the permission of our ultimate Lord and Savior, and not in a vicarious sort of way either. Divinity is Paramatma, present beyond the particular individual spirit soul, as we may say. The Atma is different than our Western model of soul, where we have a circle or that sort of stuff. It's the, basically the blank screen, so it's outside of the ego. And typically people only really refer to the ego, that mental construction of consciousness that's represented by a square or a cube, that sort of thing. The real self, the core identity, that's referred to with the dot, or the lump, or the pit within that, or against it. And then we have other things represented, but we don't need to deal with all that now. We just need to deal with the idea that we are merging through a worship of divinity, that our concern for the individual is a concern for the whole. And the point is to perfect our connection. Now, some may want to be smaller than anything they can think of. One may want to be bigger than anything they can witness in person. Others may want to fly. Others may want to sink through anything. Others may want to materialize what they wish. Others want to control that which is. They want to be gods. And in relative terms, I guess you could say you are that. But, again, you have to redefine God to something transcendent, not just, whatever's in charge of this, have a better idea of God, people, right? Some may want to go anywhere. Some may want to choose how long they're going to exist. And all these things are wonderful, and definitely there's possibilities. But ultimately, satisfaction can come in knowing that you're progressing in your bhakti yoga, your devotion. So the incarnation of love of God, that's what we want to bring into material manifestation, right? And as long as you're on the process, you're considered as if you've, reached that total thing. And as far as annihilating the demons, people that think that sort of stuff, it's like, catharsis all you want, but those things have choices. Your concern should be what you do about their possible influence, right? Same thing with other things, right? And people will say the club and the disc, but then again, if those are for killing the demons, only the material demons, their material bodies, or whatever other enemy you may have, only they can be dealt with the physical weapons. So perhaps the lotus flower as a wand and the conch shell as a musical instrument might be more appropriate as spiritual weapons. Of course, the faith in objects and music rather than the chanting is, said in some traditions to be the demonic interpretation. Avatara means to descend or come down, and that's who we were looking for, is those who've come down. What that they, and if you and the movement of people who repeat mantras is the Sankirtana movement. And as a basis, if we just have a basis like that, if we accept the real Avatara, regardless of whether we know all the names and such associated with such, if we just accept the reality of such a thing, that will have, and it's not about our votes regarding that sort of thing. We can't just decide who is the prophet, for example, as people would say. Legally in corporations, your role in the corporation is a prophet, but I don't have legal authority to make any opinion about the other. I've read a court case in Portland, Oregon, that made that point. 1985, I think it was. It's like, okay, but you set up this corporation, you set the corporation to run that way, and therefore it turned against you, so I have to rule in their favor, not yours, right? And there's going to be an end time manifester. The last one sent is going to be the Kalki. And there's a White House in Mecca now. That's kind of been part of that idea, right? Now, all the scriptures, all the actual scriptures in their original, are supposed to be things that would have conformed to each other. So when we consider what side we're supposed to be taking, that is what we're looking at there. And the root of all sin is this focus on the material body. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradeyate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauradeshe Namah. We're mentioning what is the greatest incarnation. Why? Because it's directly giving love to God. Without any other purpose, you immediately learn to love the God of light. And so you turn to the ultimate personality. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Kalu. Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatir Anyatha. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam Kalau Naste Eva, Naste Eva, Naste Eva Gatir Anyatha. So, just go on chanting about the omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, without alternative. Just go on chanting. And so you completely glorify some kirtana. Sravanam kirtanam Vishnu. No one's going to understand the all-maintaining just because we've heard. There's got to be something more than hearing. And we got to take our chance right now. And it's not about paying your way either. Some people may have different means and different abilities or whatever you're going to call it. And certainly they can use those. but some things will be center and eternal. Now, one of the things is we shouldn't say to others, here's a religious act that you're capable of doing physically, so we're not going to let you, right? That is not what we're supposed to do. So if they can say the chant, if they can perform the ritual, they're worthy. Now, we may say there are different rituals, like just because you can kill an animal doesn't mean you should do an animal sacrifice, right? There's more to it than that. And that's one of the things that is very much drawn home. And sometimes there's not quite the facilities for such. Certainly, for example, like in the Islamic tradition, they don't believe in letting the animals see each other be killed except when you're hunting. So when you kill domestic animals, putting them to sleep or otherwise, you don't do it in front of the other animals. So that provides some difficulty with mass killing now, doesn't it? Chatodarpanamarjanam. Clean your heart. Don't make it just a vain repetition, right? Chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If you just repeat this idea, deity can deliver me. Fill in the blank, whatever it is. You need to be consider when to be silent, what will change your sweat, what will move your hair, what will change your voice, what causes uncontrolled uncontrolled movement. And I don't mean just falling into seizures. There's other states that aren't quite, well, I guess maybe people call that seizures, but you know what I mean. You don't have to be full on epileptic or try to make yourself epileptic. Sometimes your sense of the body diminishes or goes away. Sometimes you just feel like saying something, and there's other trances that a person can fall into. It's important to consider these, how these are brought about, and what to do with them, what sort of sensual and intellectual awareness that can give you. Krishna consciousness, the yoga for the modern age. Chatodarpanamarjanam bhavamaha davagne nirvapanam sreyah kairavachandreka vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam anandam buddhe vardhanam prateparam purnam ratasvadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna sankirtanam. So we glorify this glorification movement. And people just into the stage of full accountability, they may start upon things. They may revive things. Don't worry about some silly thing where people's like, oh, this particular age or that particular age, right? The true social order is about divine codes. And certainly we have to obey the outer law, but the descriptions of religious activities should be allowed through those. So that's when we may compete with the government, you could say. Bhagavad Gita 4:7. Yada yada he dharmasya glanir bhavate Bharata. And so throughout India, there began to be a religiousness at that time. Amyutanam adharmasya. And at that time was the appearance. Tadatmanam sarjamaham. His appearance. And such principles are going to happen again and again. And so when we say that the cows were watched over, we also refer to the senses as the cows. And a Swami is supposed to be a master of the senses. As we went back previously, one of the things that we are looking at is those who are not mere animals. Chaitanya Chartamrita Ade 1.4 Anarpeta Charim Cherat Karunayavatirnah Kalau Samarpayetum Unnatojvala Rasam Savabhakti Sriyam Hareh Purata Sundara Dyute Kadamba Sandipeta Sada Hrdaya Kandaret Puratu Vah Sachinandana. So, in this age, there's contamination. There's fighting and disagreement. You can disagree without fighting about it, right? And there's been the declining. People haven't wanted to offer their service. People haven't turned to the transcendental aspect of being. They haven't turned to the golden. They haven't wanted, they haven't done what is necessary to be so blessed, right? Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. O most munificent, we're mentioning you as greatest source of knowledge, the God of light. Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tevesha Namah. You're the all-attractive itself. Because if you weren't, you couldn't distribute the love of the all-attractive. For the love of the all-attractive isn't always the easiest thing. But this comes freely. The one called Chaitanya said, Pratyaveta Achayata Nagarade Grama Sarvatra Prachara Haebe Mora Nama. Whatever rural or urban or city dwelling there is, these mentions will occur. It will be spread. Srimad Bhagavatam 12.3.52 Karteya Dhyayato Vishnum Tratayam Yajato Machaeh Dvapare paricharyayam kalau tad dare kirtanat. And so, in an age of truth, it was possible for anybody to just get so advanced in meditation. Some people meditated for, thousands of years, as it says. But where's our old age? You don't wait till your old age to meditate, Ashtanga yoga is the positions. The positions have meaning. They have this is what is called for, and this is what you're doing. A lot of this stuff seems arbitrary, like what day of the week you take off, what day of which month, and that sort of stuff. It's not arbitrary if it is actually called for by divinity. So if it's the divine system rather than just a mere thing of a social class, Bhava Mahadavange Devagne Nirvapanam. So, the problems of the world are the greater thing of the inner fire. And if you deal with that, then the non-impact will occur. Because the Buddhists talk of nirvana. That's what they mean. Nayam dehu deha bhajam nirloke kashtan kamanarhate vid ujam ye. Srimad Bhagavatam 551 talks about how hard a person has to work to try to satisfy themselves in material things. But we're not just swine wallowing. We're human beings. Dharma kshetra kuru kshetra. There are places that become the place of the true social order, are the place where the understanding came through. So it's important for us to regard the conditions of which the scriptures were surrounded with. Harer nama iva kevalam. So just chant, chant, chant. Kaler dosha nide rajan aste he eko mahan guna. So we speak the power, saying that this age is full of mistakes, but there is good opportunity to turn to. And of course, this opportunity, regardless of your age, of your wealth, of your gender, there's something to do. Aradyo Bhagavan Rajasa Tanayastadama Vrindavanam. And so, through the son of Nanda Maharaja in Vrindavana, Vama, we learn about the ultimate deity and how that's supposed to be worshipped. Bhagavad Gita 6:17, Yukta hara viharasya, or it's left out, Yogo bhavate dukkha. And so through artificial needs, there's discontent. So we should be satisfied with just maintaining ourselves bodily. Srimad Bhagavatam 1-20. Avam prasannamanaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate. And so we become liberated from the different modes by the loving connection to the personality of God. And this personality of God, through the various modes being operated, we find this liberation, this understanding. Bhagavad Gita 1854, prasannamanasa, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatmana Sochatena Kanshate. And so if we take advantage of these things, it's different than them just being there, right? Meditation and the self within. Now, people turn to drugs because they're trying to reach states, or they're trying to turn off states and stations, or but we can achieve these things without the drugs. That's important. And we're not trying to merely blank our minds, or not merely trying to say, oh, there's life after death. We need to do something about that life after death. We are as sparks, and sparks are of different degrees and different types. But if we nourish that spiritual spark, our relationship forms a pattern of mental conditions, and those mental conditions are what meets us at death in its ultimate state. And of course, those mental conditions produce certain actions. And plenty of people use terms that don't use it right. Like, people speak of yoga, and they're immodest. They're just bending over and skipping clothing, or no clothing, or whatever they're doing it as. That's not yoga. There's more to yoga than that. Yoga is a spiritual process, not just an outer show. And some people try to make up their own methods, and sometimes that seems like the best people have. But once they know there are authentic transmissions to refer to, that is what people should refer to. There's certainly Ouspensky and Gurdjieff and many others. There's value to their teachings, but it's not quite the same as if they turn that into philosophy for itself rather than quoting it as methods of using. If you use philosophy as a method of your understanding and believing and stuff like that, that's a whole different thing than, taking the philosophers as your guides to religion, right? And then of course you can look at philosophy and just, refer to any path through it, right? You're not, you don't have to believe any particular thing that they're doing. You don't have to do as they did in any particular matter. And people fall because they don't have scriptures. They're they're wandering around trying to find their own thing. And people are authentically trying to find, they're better than those who do nothing. But, making up your own way will never be quite the same. And it's not about your own whims. Right and wrong and all the rest of it is not decided by your own whims. And animals will be excused. Non-human animals will be excused for far more than people will. And if you just start with anything spiritual eating, even just a meal, even just, maybe there's something but just, I'm a body, I need, whatever that means. Whatever your bodily identities are. What family you were born in, what country you're born in, which ones you became a part of. But we do operate the body, so we're not denying the physical reality. We're just starting with knowing that these things are to be used by that. We can't always control our sensations and emotions. But then again, we can refer to our sensations and emotions with this consciousness of deity.